Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, in whichever realms of existence you are. Welcome to my channel, whatever mind states you're in, whatever conditions you find yourself in. Oh, hello. Namo Amida Butsu. Anyway, welcome to my channel. The thing I want to talk about today is what Renyo taught, what Renyo said, that regardless of our doubts, we should listen intently to the Dharma with our whole being. Or sorry, no, it's something, I might not get the quote exactly right. He said, regardless of our doubts, we should listen to the Dharma with our whole, no, I'm still getting it wrong, sorry. Bamboo here, definite bamboo. Let's try one more time. Third time's a charm, eh? Not really, but anyway. So Renyo said, regardless of our doubts, if we listen intently to the Dharma with our whole being, eventually we will receive Shinjin because of great compassion. And the other part of this that I want to talk about is something that Aiken Kobai Sensei, I've read in Aiken Kobai Sensei's transmission of the Amida Dharma, where he basically points out that, look at this amazing view. Just got to show that to you. Where Aiken Kopai Sensei points out that that hearing, that in the Jodo Shinshu teaching, hearing equals or is faith. So hearing the Dharma without any doubt is faith. So, right, so talk about the first part first. So that is what I do when when it says listen, when it says if we listen intently with our whole being, we will eventually receive Shinjin. Now, I don't know if I got that quote exactly right, but the part where it says, I'm pretty sure I got it right, the part where it says, listen intently with our whole being. So to me, when I listen deeply, this is something I've been doing. I have been listening intently with my whole being for many, many years. For about 15 years I've been on this path off and on. And one of the, so to me, when I hear that, listen intently with your whole being. The whole being is listen in every way to me. Like I have to listen with my conscious mind as best I can. So read with and listen with, read the teachings and listen to the teachings with my conscious mind. But I also need to listen to it with my unconscious mind, because that's part of my whole being as well. So the unconscious part of me, when I'm conscious, that's when I'm awake and I'm reading and I'm purposefully sitting down to read or listen to the Dharma, or listening to the Dharma recorded, versions of the Dharma, where while I'm doing other things, ironing or gardening or taking a walk or what have you. So that's a conscious mind, part of my whole being. Also, listening to the teachings. Part of deep listening is also, with my conscious mind, is deep reflection. So deeply reflecting on the Dharma, as I'm walking or just sitting, taking a break in the day, or while I'm doing other things, deeply reflecting on the Dharma or on things I observe in life, that relate to the Dharma, that things I observe about life that relate to Mappo, or things, in my own, experience and memory and life and mind that relate to the Dharma, and reflecting on that. So all of that's the conscious, part of deep listening for me, listening intently, and then there's, unconsciously, I, sometimes when I am listening, my mind drifts, and my conscious mind drifts. But anything I've heard anything I've read or heard while I'm here, listening in that way, will still be heard on some level in my unconscious mind. Do you know what I mean? So I do go back, though, once I realize that my mind has drifted or become distracted or what have you. I do go back and reread what I've just, what I just read, and go through that, to read it again consciously, as they say, but or as it were, and then, so I also, with my unconscious mind, when I go to bed at night, I always listen to the Dharma, recorded, teachings, often, usually from Joshua Adrian Curlia's YouTube channel, listening to his books, but there are other good channels of the Dharma that that are good, have good people of the Dharma that have recorded things, have either recorded teachings directly or are anyway. So I will listen to those when I go to bed. So some of that is received in my conscious mind, but I put on a long playlist usually, of like one of Joshua Adrian Curlia's books, for instance, and so I'll be listening to that while I'm asleep, and I'll be going in, on some level, to the unconscious level, and I do that again. That's part of my whole being, listening with my whole being, and intently. My intention. I intend to have that absorbed as well in by my unconscious mind. So that is, I am doing that intently. So that's another aspect of it for me. Discussing. I've had Dharma discussions with good teachers of the Dharma over the years. And that's part of my deep listening, asking my questions, expressing my doubts with Paul Roberts and with Joshua Adrian Curlia. And now currently, I'm working, my good teacher of the Dharma is Aiken Kobai Sensei. Indirectly, my Dharma guide currently is Kyokan, one of Aiken Kobai Sensei's longtime students. And he is always checking with Sensei, Kobai Sensei, the things we discuss and the things that I ask. So that's, and I record those sessions with Kyokan. I wish I had done that in the past with other good teachers that I worked with, but it just, that just wasn't where I was at. So, but, and I didn't have the same technologies then, as well. But anyway, so now I record everything on Zoom, all my discussions with Kyokan on Zoom, and then I listen back to those, and I post them on my YouTube channels. I'm listening to them for the purpose, because when I'm in a discussion, this is where I'm listening during those Dharma discussions. I'm listening both consciously and unconsciously. When as I've mentioned before, I have a bit of a sort of delayed assimilation with taking in information I've read or heard, and it may or may not be an undiagnosed, specific learning difficulty. I don't know whether that's the case. That's never really been properly tested or verified. But I did find that out when I was quite young. There was some testing that went on of my learning, and that's when I found out about the delayed assimilation thing. But there wasn't anything beyond that kind of fleshed out, and that was many years ago. That was probably like under 50 years ago when when that was being assessed. So, or 45 years, or something, like that. But so, the knowledge of learning the difficulties has definitely increased and moved on since then. Even though we are in Mapo, there is more knowledge about those things now. Some of which I think is good, some of which I think is a bit murky and hazy. But anyway, so when I listen, and also because because I am a bamboo, my mind gets distracted just as a normal course of things, constantly being distracted, and my mind drifts. So while I'm having those discussions with Kyokan and recording those, I'm not always receiving everything when I'm asking, expressing my doubts, and then we're having the discussion about them, or whatever topics that Kyokan brings up. I'm not always receiving consciously at that moment while we're having the discussion all the information. So some of it's going in consciously at that moment, and some is going in unconsciously. So again, but both I am intending with my whole being to listen. And later I go back and listen to those recordings so that I can receive it more consciously, listen to it more consciously, and take that in. So that's another aspect of my deep listening process. And what else? Mentioned deep reflection. Oh, and in the past, what I would do is listen to, sometimes when I requested, when I was a member of Amitaji, I requested with Josho Adrian Curlia Sensei pretty early on in my membership and working with him as a good teacher, requested to do a kind of, even though I joined Amitaji before the formal constitution was in place, so I joined Amitaji while it was still under the auspices of Hongwanji, Nishi Hongwanji. I think it's Nishi Hongwanji. Anyway, it was still officially under Nishi Hongwanji, even though that was the case, and later on created his own constitution when he declared that the temple, the Amitaji International Sangha Temple, had left Hongwanji, created his own constitution. But I joined several months before that, and did my Kiyashiki ceremony several months before that. And anyway, I requested to have weekly sessions with Sensei, where I requested to go through the main text of Amida G, the Amida Dharma, in depth. And eventually during that year, that group grew. People started to hear about this Dharma study I was having on a weekly basis with Sensei and requested to join. So in the end, there will end up being like 3 or 4 people at a time, in addition to Sensei, in those Dharma discussions. And so that was part of my deep listening, obviously. And I would ask questions during those sessions, actually, of Sensei, because it was still kind of geared toward that was my, kind of Dharma time, if you like. And so, and Sensei would record the sessions and sometimes post some of them or share some to his YouTube channel, or share some of those sessions with us just directly. And so during those sessions, obviously I was listening as consciously as possible, as well as unconsciously, and then later on with the recordings would listen to them consciously, and anything else I didn't quite take in, or I would follow up with Sensei and ask at some point, or again pick that up in the recorded sessions. So this was also part of my deep listening. Another thing that I've done was on past YouTube, and the previous YouTube channel I had, Shakugankai, which was my Dharma name, was that I would have Dharma discussions, just informal Dharma discussions with one of my Dharma brothers at the time, which was Shaku Joshin, which many people may be aware of him and his YouTube channel, as well as anybody who's a member of Amida G, and also he was a member of the Trushin Buddhist Sangha at one point. So there was that. Anyway, and so I would have discussions with him and other members of the Amida G Sangha. I would have we just arrange a phone call and have an informal discussion. Sometimes would record that and put it as a, and I would have with those informal discussions, we wouldn't record necessarily. And so that was another part of deep listening, having those Dharma discussions with members of the Sangha. And also, I would formally record episodes with, most of the time with Shaku Joshin, called Shaku Brothers. So at some point, I'm going to reinstitute that quote unquote show, that series of that format into my Dharma channel, this channel anyway, and will at some point, anyway. Hello. Hiya. Yeah. Another dog greeting me on the path, and a non-human that obviously wants to hear the Amida Dharma. Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, another part of my deep listening was these informal conversations that you would have with Sangha members, and whatever Sangha I end up with, I intend to do that again as well, whether that's with Amida G or another Jodo Shinshu Sangha. I'm checking out the Oregon Buddhist temple right now, because the main priest of that temple seems to be a good teacher, seems to be an orthodox teacher of Shinjin, orthodox teacher of Jodo Shinshu. So I'm checking out that temple to possibly get involved, and I know that they have an international online membership. So at some point maybe I'll wind up doing, contact, if I'm a member of that, whatever Sangha it is, whether it's Amida G or that temple or another one, I'm going to try to do the similar things to deep listen, have informal Dharma discussions with members, and also like I said, I would sometimes record Dharma discussions with Shaku Joshin and other members of the Amida-ji Sangha, and we would have a Dharma discussion that would be recorded, and I would put that up as an episode of Shaku Brothers. And I will probably do that again. Whatever Sangha I'm involved with, I will probably try to do that again. As well as another part of my deep listening was interviewing members of the Amida-ji Sangha and lay teachers of the Amida-ji Sangha. And putting that on my channel, and I intend to do that again with whatever temple I join, whatever Sangha I join. I'm going to attempt to do that again with this channel. Interview members of the Sangha and hopefully, teachers and priests and things of whatever Sangha I'm involved with. And so that was another part of my deep listening. And, while I was having those discussions, again, mind would drift or wouldn't take everything in consciously, but I was taking it in unconsciously, and I was aware of that. So I was just, and I would go back and listen to those recorded sessions to take it in consciously. But anyway, that's all been part of my deep listening process, if you like. With my whole being, and that, like I said, that includes, so, there's lots of elements there. There's me just deeply reflecting within myself. There's my unconscious mind. There's my conscious mind. There's my discussing, with words, having discussions with both teachers and with Sangha members. So using my mouth, as part of my whole being, and I suppose somehow the body is involved with that, taking the action, I guess. So you've got the conscious and conscious mind, so that's the action of the mind involved, and then you've got I guess you've got the speech. You're using speech to do this, so there's the action of your speech, and then there's the you're using your body to take these actions, to actually physically, go on the computer to listen to something or open the book, flip the pages, to read the book, or to go online to get in touch with your Dharma teacher or the Dharma guide, to have that discussion. So your body is involved. That's your body involved, So you've got the actions of mind, speech, and body all engaged there. So that's, I guess, part of your whole being, and it's motivated by my heart. My heart's involved in terms of my motivation. I'm deeply motivated to listen. I deeply want to listen to the Dharma, to learn, to take it in. To become open to Amida's Dharma, and that's and that's kind of the part of the process of deep listening, is to become open to Amida's Dharma. You become open through that means that Amida has provided, and through Amida's power. During your deep listening, the Amida opens us to his Dharma, opens us to the truth of the Dharma, one of our Dharma masters, I can't remember, it was Shinran or Renyo, talked about that I don't know if it was specifically about deep listening. Let me just use this analogy instead of saying what Shinran or Renyo may have said or didn't say about this. I'll just say a good analogy that I have heard and make sense to me. A couple of them actually. One is when it comes to deep listening is you listen with, just slow down here and just give you this view while I'm talking. One aspect, so okay, when you're deep listening, so what you're doing is you're putting the clothes out to dry. You've got this pile of wet laundry, and so you're putting the laundry out to dry, but it's not you drying the laundry. You're just hanging it on the line, putting it out in the sun, so that the light of the sun dries the laundry. The light of the sun gets the job done. You don't. And that's kind of what deep listening is in the process of coming open to Amita's Dharma is, for me. And then there's the analogy that, and I got that analogy through working with Kobai Sensei and Kyokan. Another analogy I've heard is from Josho Sensei, where he talks about, it's like you're in a darkened room, and through deep listening and doing all the things we're meant to be doing as Jodo Shinshu followers, we open the windows. We open the windows. It's our darkened room. We open the windows, or we pull up the curtains, and the light shines in. And brightens the room. We don't brighten the room. It's not our action of pulling the curtain up or opening the windows, opening the shutters that lights up the room. It's the sun that lights up the room. So that's another really good analogy for me, when I'm thinking about deep listening, and the whole process of, deep listening is working with a good teacher. It's having Dharma discussions. It's listening with your whole being. It's all these things I've been talking about. It's saying, and then also saying Nembutsu and wishing to go to Amita's land. All those things. It's not our doing that does the work. Us doing those things is just opening the window, or opening the shutters, or pulling up the curtain. The light is what brightens the room. The light is what brightens the room and makes the plants grow inside the house. And it's the sun. If I put I'm just putting the laundry out on the line. It's the sun that dries it. The sun dries it for me. So all those actions that we take as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists of working with a good teacher, listening deeply, saying Nembutsu, wishing to go to Amita's land, all those things, and trusting as best we can, for wherever we are in the process. All of those things Amita uses, opens us through those things. It's not our actions that bring about us being more open to the Dharma or bring about Shinjin. It's Amita that does that, that brings that about. And I can definitely see the process working in my life. I could definitely see Amita's working in my life. I'm so much more accepting of the Dharma and the teaching than I was. Have so much more faith as I read, when I am deep listening, and either reading or listening to the Dharma. So much less resistance, or less questioning, or less, so much less. It's unbelievable, and especially the past several months, that process has really accelerated since the end of kind of last summer, or the autumn, really, since last autumn. That process has really super accelerated, and where a lot of my questions are being resolved, a lot of my doubts have been resolved, to where it kind of feels like it's down to really Amita just fine tuning some things, so that I can fully entrust to him. I'm so much more trusting, have so much more faith than I did, especially when I first started this 15 years ago. I started on this path 15 years ago. So much more faith, so many less questions, so many less doubts. I feel like really close, to that point where, where I really, at this point, for a long time, I go back and forth between having a sense of it's not going to be possible for me to. It's not possible for me to have Shinjin. It's not possible for me to have doubtless faith, for me to have diamond-like, adamantine, faith without any doubt. I couldn't imagine it. At one point, I couldn't even imagine it. Then I go back and forth between, for a lot of years of being able to kind of see it as a possibility, and then go back and forth between that and no, there's no way, to where over the last several months, it's gotten less. I did have that very strong. Oh, there's no way I'm gonna ever have that kind of faith. I'm just too questioning. I'm just have too many doubts. I just can't. My mind is just habituated in a certain way too much. I'm just never gonna, and that's where I was kind of in the summer of last year, obviously. If you heard any of the videos I made around that time, not that are not on this channel, they're on the old channel that I took down. Anyway, but I was at that point. But over the last several months, the process has really accelerated, of much less and less feeling of that, and much more and more feeling like it's a possibility that I will be able to have faith. I will be able to fully entrust to Amida for my karmic destiny, etc. So the second part of the thing I mentioned about, Kobai Sensei pointing out in his transmission of the Dharma that hearing the Dharma, hearing without doubt is faith. Hearing the Dharma, the Jodo Shinshu teaching without any doubt is faith. And when I hear the Dharma now, when I'm listening to the Dharma and I hear it, I have so much more faith when I hear it. When I'm having these discussions, I'm doing my deep listening, all these different things, reflecting whatever it is, I have so much less doubt, less and less doubt, and so much more faith, just unquestioning. My questions have been resolved. A lot of my doubts have been resolved. Now my questions have been resolved. To the point where part of the reason I want to make this video is that, I feel so close to a sense of faith, and feel so close to the point where I don't have any more doubts and don't have any more questions or blockages that would prevent fully entrusting or full faith, in Amida, and just absolute Shinjin faith. That I feel so close to that now that I unfortunately tripped myself up again, and really started to believe, and it was just for like one day, even part of one day, where I really believed I had Shinjin. Made a video about that, posted it, and then shortly after posting it, kind of was like not really trusting myself about it. I'm like, do I really have faith? So I took it down after a while, after a day or two or whatever. I took that down and was really like not questioning Amida, but questioning myself. You've been here before. And because of my deep reflection over the past several months, and because of working with Kobai Sensei and Kyokan, and really discussing how in the past I have convinced myself I had Shinjin when I didn't, a handful of 3 or 4 times, because I had that discussion already, I was able to really very quickly catch on to the fact that this was just my wishful thinking again. Very strong, motivated by very sincere things, but I am a bamboo, and I tricked myself again. You know, I tricked myself again, but it didn't last long. And kind of as soon as I realized that I took, like I said, I took that video down. So I apologize to anyone who saw that video. I had fooled myself again for probably a matter of hours, really, which that's the quickest it's ever been. At least it was only a matter of hours or a day or something. It was not even a full day. It was like a matter of hours, you know. And I realized it pretty quickly, like, no, you know. So I fooled myself again, and so therefore that, you know, video was null and void. So I took it down, and I do apologize, like I said, if anybody saw that. But you know, full disclosure, this is part of the process, for me anyway, to catch these things and to you know, disclose that, you know, full disclosure, you know, fully, you know, this is something I'll discuss again with Kyokan, and you know, probably put that to Kobai Sensei to say what, you know, to just talk about what's going on with that. You know, this is probably the 5th time I've done that in the past 15 years. Tricked myself, but this is the quickest I've picked up on it, really quickly, of any time that I've ever, you know, been, you know, in that mind state where I thought I had Shinjin and I didn't. And this time it was because because, like I said, I feel so close. You know, I feel so much less doubt and so much less blockages, and so much has been cleared of the channels of faith, and so much less questions, you know, questions about that would prevent faith, if you see what I mean. I have so much less than that. I feel so close. I feel like Amida is really, you know, really working in my life, my existence, provisional as it may be, my existence, that is, not Amida. Amida is true and real. I just, that's where I think this time it kind of came from, and the fact that I'm just a bamboo still, you know. So I'm gonna fall prey to these kinds of things of my own, these tricks and things of my own mind, my own deluded, ignorant mind, full of blind passions and blind motivations and obscurations and attachments and aversions and all that. I'm bound to behave in those ways. So anyway, just wanted to make a video about that, and yeah, say thanks for listening, and Namo Amida Butsu.